Central rivals go head-to-head this weekend when the Pirates face the Cubs at Wrigley.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out.
The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app.
Coming up on the Best of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast, Aaron Hernandez is guilty of first-degree murder. Was he enabled at Florida? We get your reaction. Plus Mizzou head coach Gary Pinkel and Marcus Spears. It's the Best of the Finebaum Show podcast, and it starts right now.
This is the Best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
And very pleasant good afternoon on a very busy day, and we'll get to many stories as we move throughout the next 4 hours. We'll talk to Gary Pinkel coming up in a few minutes. Certainly spring football is in the air. But the big story of this day concerns Aaron Hernandez, as almost all of you have heard by now, convicted earlier today in the state of Massachusetts. He's not done yet. He still faces a double murder trial in Massachusetts as well. The odds of him getting out of prison are infinitesimal, and that is going to be one of the topics this afternoon. Of course, your phone calls, as always, at 855-242-7285. So that won't be the only topic. That will be the first topic, though. Number of guests on board on this Wednesday. Mike Bianchi starts us off. We'll talk to Marcus Spears, getting ready for LSU's spring game. Gary Pinkel, as I mentioned, the Mizzou head coach. Always great to catch up with him. And later on, Heather Dinich about the future of scheduling in college football. It is very difficult to do when you go 10 to 15 years out. We begin with Mike Bianchi, the longtime columnist and talk show host in Orlando. He covered Aaron Hernandez at the University of Florida. And Mike's always good to visit. Let's start. It's certainly not a lot of reaction to what happened today. It was expected, but just the idea that this man played at the University of Florida for Urban Meyer, obviously went on, and all of this happened while he was at New England. What has been the reaction since it began, and obviously today in the state of Florida?
Well, obviously, Gator fans, Gator Nation, the Gator administration, they don't want to be tied to this, but they are. Aaron Hernandez was a key component in Urban Meyer's national championship run at UF, and, since he was arrested on these murder charges, they have removed all vestiges of his existence at the University of Florida. But he's going to be tied to UF. There's no question about it. I mean, this is one of the most heinous crimes in the history of big-time sports in this country, and he's a former Gator. You can't deny that, and it's something that they're going to have to live with.
Certainly, I know when it first came out, most of the attention was on what happened in New England, although it's a well-known story by now that Bill Belichick and the Kraft family asked Urban Meyer what he thought of Aaron Hernandez, and I'm told that he vouched for Aaron Hernandez. That doesn't make Urban Meyer right or wrong. He obviously vouched for someone who turned out to be now a convicted murderer. But from that aspect of it, does it really matter anymore, or is this more of a New England Patriot story than the University of Florida?
Well, everybody knows the type of program Urban Meyer ran at the University of Florida. He's the ultimate winner. He's obviously one of the greatest coaches in college, probably going to go down as one of the greatest coaches in college football history, but he had a crime-ridden program at the University of Florida. Tim Tebow was there as sort of the deodorizer of that program because Tebow was all that was good about college athletics. But a lot of the other guys were guys like Aaron Hernandez, and Aaron Hernandez got in some incidents at the University of Florida. He was suspected in a shooting there. It's still an unsolved shooting at the University of Florida back in 2007. When he first got there, he got into a bar fight where he hit the bouncer so hard that it busted the bouncer's eardrum, and he continued to play at UF. No significant disciplinary action against him. So, yeah, I think, obviously, in a lot of cases, I think college coaches enable their athletes. We saw it a generation ago, Paul, with Lawrence Phillips at Nebraska. Lawrence Phillips, by the way, just accused of murdering his cellmate in a California prison. Tom Osborne allowed Lawrence Phillips to help them win a national title after he beat up his girlfriend and bashed her head into a mailbox. So college coaches will allow a lot if you're a good player.
And it's always easy to say now after the fact, but you know the fan base. You've dealt with them your entire career. You talk to them on the radio. Until stuff like this comes out, do they really care as long as the team wins?
That's a good question. I mean, Paul, it's still happening, and fans are going to defend their coaches and their players until they can't defend them anymore. And obviously, in hindsight, the Gators can't defend Lawrence Phillips anymore, but it's going to happen again. You know, a player's. We saw it at Alabama. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, for crying out loud. Nick Saban saying he wants to give Jonathan Taylor a second chance, blah, 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 blah. If you're a great player, coaches are going to allow you to play, and then, you know, to hell with the PR, and you see what happens. So, no, I don't think Gator fans were saying anything back then. But, Paul, in all honesty, a lot of this stuff back then went uncovered. There were no charges when Aaron Hernandez got into a bar fight. There were no charges in the suspected shooting. So there wasn't a whole lot of information coming out about Aaron Hernandez when he played at the University of Florida.
Did you, as someone, I realize you weren't on the beat any longer, you're a columnist, but did you ever stop and think, what is this guy doing down there? No, because, again, there was no inkling of it. I mean, you hear that there was a disturbance at a bar, but there's no charges against Aaron Hernandez. They just sort of mysteriously disappear. Everybody knows most big-time universities have an attorney that sort of makes these things go away. So if you're a member of the media, it's hard to keep track because big-time football programs are pretty good at covering their tracks and covering when players get into trouble. I realize you wrote about this after Hernandez was first arrested, and it's easy to do. You alluded to Urban Meyer's stewardship of the Florida program, but where does Urban Meyer fit into this story today, in your mind?
I think it's like this. I mean, obviously, Aaron Hernandez is an adult, and he's responsible for his own actions. There's no question about that. But you wonder what would have happened if he'd have been held accountable for his actions back when he was a 17-year-old freshman at the University of Florida. That's where I think Urban Meyer fits in. I mean, again, Aaron Hernandez, Urban Meyer didn't know Aaron Hernandez was going to become a murderer, but he did enable him when he was a 17-year-old, 18-year-old football player at the University of Florida.
Mike Bianchi, with the reaction to the conviction today of Aaron Hernandez, you almost hate to say former University of Florida player because in my mind, Mike, he's so closely associated with the Patriots, but you can't ignore where he went to college and the program he helped lead to national championships. Many thanks for your time.
Thanks, Paul.
Good to talk to you. Mike Bianchi with us to start off our Wednesday. Certainly it is the story in sports. I don't know what else can add. Certainly the culture of athletes in trouble is out there. We talk about it all the time. Is it fair to lay any of this on the hands or feet of Urban Meyer? I have a hard time doing that. I really do. I mean, Urban Meyer vouched for the guy. That was his opinion of the player. Certainly, it was a bad decision on his part, and the Patriots paid for it. But it doesn't seem like either the Patriots or Urban Meyer have paid much of a price since then. It's only Aaron Hernandez that is in cuffs, in custody, and isn't going anywhere for hopefully the rest of his life.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Let's get some reaction, and we start with Daryl in Georgia. Hey, Daryl.
What's going on, Paul?
Hey there.
I got three things I want to talk about real quick. First, I mean yesterday, okay, and Bob did it. I just want to say this, okay? This is not friggin' American Top 40. You're not Casey Kasem. I mean, Bob Dylan is probably the worst singer I have ever heard in my life. I can only imagine how bad he is at 70, okay? This is football talk. It ain't doing that crap out in. Now, also, real quick, I went down Tennessee's schedule. I heard what Barnhart said yesterday. I looked at their schedule. I want to give you my take on that real quick. I'm thinking they might lose to Oklahoma, and then they got, like, Georgia, Arkansas, Florida, Arkansas, and Georgia back to back to back. I think they're going to blow up. They'll lose either Arkansas or Georgia, I believe. But then they get a week off. And I tell you what, I'm calling right now. I'm thinking they're going to knock off Alabama. We will see. And then I think they'll lose another one down. They'll be 9-3, but 9-3 is going to be good. But here's the deal. Barnhart said yesterday people are overlooking the big thing, which is the two back-to-back top 5 recruit classes. That's not the big thing. The big thing is wins. That is all that matters, and that's what's going to have to start happening, or it's just a bunch of talk. Now, this is the day that I have been waiting on right here, by far. I am telling you, there is no doubt in my mind, okay? I knew that they were running, everybody knew they were running a third program down in Florida. Is it Urban Meyer's fault? I don't think so. No, I'll tell you what, Paul, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt for this. I think the man had a conscience. I think the man had a conscience. He knew what they were running down there, and he said, I cannot do this no longer. I think he kind of felt bad because he beat Ohio State for a national championship. Probably one of the reasons why he went to Ohio State. I guarantee you that national championship he won to Ohio State means more to him than the two Florida national championships. I think this right here is living proof with Hernandez. Okay, I think the NCAA needs to step up and do something. You burst a guy's eardrum, and you don't even never have to even face the charges on that? Are you kidding me? That is just as much the University of Florida's fault as it is Aaron Hernandez. Big time. I think they need to do an investigation, put that freaking program on major probation, and use them as an example for all other schools that you're not going to come in here and run a freaking thug program in collegiate sports. You're not going to do it. No way did Hernandez, I believe, he had the aptitude to be in college. Them type people are not college kids. They just are not. And he didn't start killing when he got to New England. It didn't start then. It started long before then. But I think that right there is a big reason to why, and we saw how Urban Meyer kind of left Florida, how that went down. I think that right there had a lot to do with it. I think Urban Meyer had a conscience, and he just was not going to do it anymore. But they probably told him, hey, man, down here, you either win or you get fired. And he just said, you know what, the hell with it. I can't do this. It ain't right. It ain't freaking right, man. It's not right. It probably would have helped Hernandez if they would have held him accountable then. They didn't. Now we see the aftermath of it. But I just think, this is living proof right here of what. Now, I'm going to tell you something. They used Tebow as a mask. All the good about Tim Tebow when he was out in Florida was all, I ain't saying it wasn't good, but it was used heavily to mask all the thuggish issues that were going on down there. I think that's obvious now. I think the NCAA needs to step up and do something about this because there's no way that you can just sweep this under the rug. And the guy got life in prison, no parole, and he damn well deserved it. He was a thug from the word go. And I would just like to see the NCAA step up and do something about this and to make an example so it don't happen again. See you, Paul.
Lance is up next. Lance, good afternoon.
Yeah, one thing about Darryl, that's the problem with the world. Nobody wants to be accountable for their actions, Paul. You can't put this on Urban Meyer. You can't put this on Florida. Once you put it on Aaron Hernandez, 90% on Aaron Hernandez, 5% on his parents, and the other 5 on his high school. You think he just showed up at Florida one day? No, man, this kid had a raising. And I'm coming to you as a former criminal, Paul, 3-time convicted felony. I know about trouble. I know about being on the wrong side of the law, and I'll tell you this. Nobody can change you but you. I had to change myself. There ain't no coach in the world. There ain't a parent in the world that can change you. And
hold on a second, Darryl. Let me.
Yes,
this
sir.
is not about you, but you said you're a 3-time convicted felon.
Yes, sir. Before my daughter was born, Paul, I was 3-time convicted felon. I've been in jail my whole life till I turned 25. My little girl saved my life. And I'm just going to tell you, man, nobody can change you but you, Paul. That's all I'm trying to say. Everybody wants to put the blame on Urban Meyer in Florida. That's ridiculous, man. I will say Urban Meyer enabled him. Urban Meyer enabled everybody. What do you have, 30 arrests? I mean, you can't translate a bar fight at Florida to killing somebody. That's ridiculous, man. I think the last year he played in Florida was 2008. Come on, man. Dale just wants to see somebody go on probation. So hopefully Georgia can win again since they ain't won since 1980. That's all he wants. I hope Dale ain't a parent because he damn sure ain't accountable. He won't blame everybody for everything. But what do you think, Paul? What do you think Florida should get punished for this? Tell me you don't.
Yeah, no. I don't think Florida really should even be mentioned, other than the fact that is where Hernandez went to school. Yeah, I don't think that has anything to do with it. To me, and I'm not blaming Bob Kraft or Bill Belichick. It's a professional football team, but this is about the Patriots. It's not about the University of Florida.
And that's what I try to tell you about the NFL, Paul. If you want a long career in the NFL, you got to be a punk. You can't have Texas over Tim Tebow. They worship people like that. They don't care nothing about people like Tim Tebow. That's why I hate the NFL, man. But we ain't going back into that. But just tell me, Paul, if you want to blame somebody, don't you think you should blame his high school instead of Florida?
No, listen, Lance, you don't need me, Lance, you don't need me to tell you this as somebody who has been convicted 3 times. The person to blame here is Aaron Hernandez. It's not his high school coach. It's not his mother. It's not his father. It's not Urban Meyer. It's him. I mean, no one. I mean, if you're going to go out there and do what he's now convicted of doing and charged in other cases, all the people in the world can't help you. That's who you are.
You're exactly right, Paul, and I appreciate you saying that. It's 100% on Aaron Hernandez. And for all you young kids out there, anybody, man, stay with the right people, man. Stay with the right people. I'm not saying people can change you, but they can have an influence on you. I was supposed to say, man, stick to yourself, stick to your family. And thank you for your time, Paul.
Thanks, Lance. Glad to hear from you. Appreciate your honesty about yourself. And Andy is up next in Ohio.
Paul, I love it when you have Mike Bianchi on. He is the most even-keel, reputable source of information that you can find in the state of Florida. I have to say I agree with him 10,000%. Let's go after that program in Florida. Urban Meyer ran that with all those ne'er-do-wells and hooligans and all their tomfoolery and whatnot. We need to get Mark Emmert in there, and we need to bring in the NC2A, and we need to give Florida some Penn State treatment on this thing. We need to vacate those wins, and most importantly, those 2 titles that were wrongfully awarded to the University of Florida need to be reallocated to the true champions who participated in the other side of those games. Because, we just can't reward an institution for having people like that. So, whoever it was who played on the other side of Florida in those 2 national championship games, we should hereby bestow those national titles, the BCS titles, rightfully to these other institutions. And while we're at it, Paul, can you figure out a way that we can frame Joakim Noah for murder too?
Andy, thanks for the call. Let's check out Ty in North Carolina. Hey, Ty.
Hey, how you doing, Paul? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
The question I have is that I like the point Bianchi brought up about the culpability of Urban Meyer. If social media was like it is today, back then, don't you think that Urban Meyer would have been forced to, kind of maybe suspend Hernandez and address the issue? Because it seems like there's a bit of I don't want to say a cover-up, but nothing was brought out in the open like it would have been if it was done today. Would you agree?
I don't know. I think it all depends on how much evidence there would have been. I mean, there was certainly there wasn't social media to the extent back then that there is today, but there was plenty of coverage.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that this was brought to his attention.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt it was brought to his attention.
And he opted to, make a decision to keep him on the team because he was a.
Well, but look at this. I mean, we just got through talking about Nick Saban. Nick Saban didn't need social media to tell him that Jonathan Taylor was charged in Georgia with domestic abuse. That everyone knew that. So, I think we're giving. I think we're missing the point here. To me, it's Urban Meyer knew about it. He knew about everything that went on there. He chose to look the other way.
So he's not. But you were saying before that you're not really holding him accountable.
Well, no. How can you hold a head football coach accountable for someone who later committed murder? He didn't commit murder on the campus of the University of Florida. He committed murder in the state of Massachusetts. James is up next in Birmingham. Hey, James.
Hey, Mr. Paul. I'm a first-time caller. But I was going to ask you about something else. But after listening to all these people talk about Urban Meyer and he should be held accountable for, this man, committing murder and stuff, I'm a Florida fan. and I live here in Alabama now, and I lived here for 20 years. You know, people don't understand. And they all say that we should go after, you know, the NCAA should go after all these schools for doing this. Well, if that's the case, should they go after Michael Vick, the people where he went to college? Should they went after that professional player that shot up the nightclub and I think it was Philadelphia or wherever it was he was at when he carried a gun in there?
No, I mean, look, James, the answer to that is no. It's patently ridiculous to put a school on probation because of something a former player does. You know, let's take the Penn State case out of this because that was an institutional issue. The charges there were obvious.
No, I'm talking about the one that played for the Jaguars. But
I don't think a university needs to be put on probation because you have thugs or criminals. It's the job of the head coach to make those determinations, and most make pretty good decisions, not all of them.
And I totally agree with that. But what I was going to ask you is my original question. I know Aaron Hernandez got a big signing deal and all that when he entered the NFL. Is he in your opinion, do you think that he's allowed to take that over to like private life and he'll be able to use it in jail, or will he be like sued and have to give that back?
No, I mean, Aaron Hernandez, in addition to having two more, he has a double murder case on top of this. I'm sure the civil charges will come fast and furious. I'm not sure exactly what the law is in Massachusetts, but I sincerely doubt that whatever money he has made, first of all, he spent a lot of money on lawyers. If you're a criminal defense lawyer, you're not getting the money at the back end. You're getting it up front, guaranteed. And I doubt Aaron and his immediate family are going to have a lot of money to burn in the future other than maybe bringing him soap and candy bars into jail because he's not ever going to see the light of day again.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Marcus Spears alive and well in Baton Rouge, family down there. And I mean, you were telling me during the break, Marcus, that you were eating a salad. I suppose that's only because you're about to pile it on later on at the family abode.
No, I'm trying to get my body to look like yours.
No, you don't want that.
I'm trying to become a Paul Finebaum clone. I need to get bigger, and it needs to be the right way. It needs to be muscle. I got to get this fat off me, P-Town. So I started compacting the greens. I put me some grilled chicken in there for protein with some avocado, the healthy fats. So I'm doing well, man. The big swagoo is trying to make a change.
I'm all for it. Let's talk about the not so good news of this day, and actually it is good news knowing that this guy is no longer going to be on the streets. Aaron Hernandez convicted. You know the story. Do you know him?
I don't know him at all. I played against him. Never had much interaction with him. But, due process was done, and the verdict came down as guilty. I think it was first-degree murder. So I don't know if they sentenced him yet. Have they sentenced him yet, P-Town?
I don't think so, but he's not going anywhere. I mean,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's life without parole. He's done.
Yeah. So
obviously that's an automatic appeal in Massachusetts, but I'd say you're not going to see him on the streets of Boston anytime soon.
Well, those type of decisions cost you that life, and not only is a young man buried and gone, but now you destroy another family by being locked up for the rest of your life probably, and if he had kids, that's a disaster, and hopefully. His family outside of himself can pick up the pieces and move forward, but you just can't. I mean, look, 2 years ago, Aaron Hernandez signed one of the biggest contracts for tight ends, and now we're sitting here today talking about him serving life in prison without the possibility of parole. So it can turn fast, and that's one thing that I personally think that these guys need to know. Call somebody before you mess up, and make the right decisions because. You can build something for 15, 20 years, and in 30 seconds, it can be all taken away from you from one bad decision. And I think guys need to see this for what it is, and they need to put their own perspective on it and realize that no matter how invisible you think you are, if you do something wrong, you're going to get caught and you're going to have to suffer the consequences. And I think that's what we saw unfold throughout this whole process.
Marcus, some people are blaming the environment in Gainesville, the situation with Urban Meyer. It's hard to imagine anyone being able to set someone like this on the right course. But you've been there. You've had friends, you said to me many times, that were criminals. What can a head coach do?
P-Town, listen, once the kid knows right from wrong, there's consequences to everything that you do. And obviously, you know, a lot of these guys come from areas of life where it hadn't been, you know, peaches and cream growing up, and there's been rough roads, but you make a decision to make the best out of your situation, and you make a decision to either change it or you become one of the statistics. And the guys that don't want to become one of the statistics and want to change and make life better for themselves and also their families, those are the guys that you tend to see be those stories about how you triumph and overcome growing up in bad situations. And if you succumb to what you grow up in, if you use that as a crutch and as a defense, then all your life you'll be looking to blame somebody else. Aaron Hernandez has no one else to blame. The fans don't have anyone else to blame. He knew it was wrong to murder someone, and everybody that does wrong 9 times out of 10 when you're grown, you understand what you're doing is wrong. So, you know, I'm one of those guys where it's pretty cut and dry when it comes to things like that. And look, guys get second chances for doing things all across the scale. But, you know, this sets a precedent. When you take someone's life, you have to pay for that. And I think that's what his process is. But blaming people and outside elements and head coaches, for me, that's just an excuse to show the next guy that it'll be somebody out there that may want to take the brunt if you make a bad decision, which isn't the way life goes. And Aaron Hernandez experienced that today. Life doesn't go that way. If you do the wrong things and you get caught, and you have to suffer the consequences for them.
Chatting with Marcus Spears, let's turn to where you are and what you're doing down there. LSU getting ready to take a good look at its program on Saturday. Marcus, it's a critical year for Les Miles, no matter how you slice it. You've been on the ground there now. You know this program well. Where are they and where are they going?
A lot of young talent. I think they have the same kind of essence about them as a lot of schools this year. A lot of guys that they feel confident about. One good thing that you do notice is that these quarterbacks are walking around shoulders a little bit more back, a little bit more confident about how they talk and how they do interviews. Les has talked about them understanding the offense a lot better, and Cam is enjoying seeing these guys grow. And will that materialize into being wins? That's yet to be seen. But you can tell they feel good about the guys that they have that are going to be able to line down on Saturday. And that's, at this point, that's what you want. You want a bunch of guys working hard. You want them progressing in the spring. You want to see offense and defense starting to come together and guys starting to assert themselves and set themselves apart to see who will be there in the fall, potentially either starting or playing a key role throughout the season. But this LSU football team has a lot of talent, just as well as a bunch of teams in the SEC. And if they can get these young guys to produce to their full potential or their talent level, then they'll be the LSU of Norm that we expect to be in the thick of things right at the end of it.
Finally, Leonard Fournette. We haven't talked about him, but we'll hear a lot about him as we get ready for the season.
He's a man-child. When you see him walk around the facility, you can tell when the big dog is walking in, and everybody has a sense of respect. And not because he's a tremendous player, but because of how he prepares and how he practices. And you hear coaches. I talked to Coach Tommy Moffitt earlier today, the head strength and conditioning coach, and he told me he works as hard as anybody, and he's probably got the most talent as anybody. And that says a lot about a guy when he knows how good he is, but he still hungers to be the best in the whole country. He doesn't want it to be a conversation. And Leonard would never tell you that because he's really a humble guy, quiet guy, kind of straight to the cuff, just wants to put his head down and go to work. But he wants to be mentioned as the best. He wants to win the Heisman Trophy and be an All-American. And I think that's where his sights are set. And I feel like when you have that type of talent and when you have the draw behind you that he does, you should want to aspire to do those things and he's going to be a phenomenal player this year. Just like it's a lot of good backs in the SEC, and he hears the chatter about Nick Chubb and Jalen Hurd and the two beasts over there at Arkansas who's upperclassmen but still talked about as running backs in this conference. He wants to be the guy. So he's preparing that way, and everybody's looking forward to him having kind of a Heisman-type season and really producing for this offense.
The predictions and analysis of Marcus Spears, and my final prediction that you will not stick to this salad diet while you're I know some of your family members down there, and I know how well they cook.
P-Town, don't knock a man down when he's trying, man. You just support me. Send me a text message in about 10, 15 minutes when you get a break, encouraging me to eat right and stay healthy and drink a lot of water.
Well, it depends on which one of your family members is still around down there. I've lost track, but if the lady that I think is still down there, you're not getting out of town without chowing down. Am I right?
I'll have to tell her to use olive oil instead of peanut oil.
The fried chicken is going to be good as always. Hey, give them my best, please.
All right, P-Town, thanks, man.
Okay, Marcus Spears, he's not getting out of town. No way, not with his grandmother living out that area of the country.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Linda is up next in Alabama. Hey, Linda.
Good afternoon, Paul. How are you?
Great, thank you.
You know why I'm calling in. I've got to give an update. Debbie is a priority in my life today, and she's a priority, and I want to thank you so much, first of all, for allowing me to be her spokesperson, so to speak, for Debbie. But she had her surgery today, and they done everything that I told you yesterday, that, all the screws on each side of her ankle, the plates, the screw to attach her foot back to her leg, and they did find torn ligament in there, and they had to suture it back together. Now, Dr. Carr told her husband after the surgery that she had a very bad break. He said it's not the worst I've seen, but very close. So, and it's going to take her 6 weeks before she can even put any weight on it. And, of course, she's going to have physical therapy, occupational therapy. And I asked John, her husband, I said, I don't want to move along too far, but when do you expect, and the doctor expect, her full recovery? And he said about kickoff time for the college football season.
Well, that is, listen, I don't know how to characterize the news other than it could have been worse based on what you told us yesterday.
She has said that. She said it could have been worse, and but she is going to make a full recovery, but it's going to take a long time for her to get there, but she will get there, and she really appreciates you, your staff, the callers, the listeners, and her Twitter was blowing up yesterday when I talked to her yesterday evening. It was just blowing up.
Let me ask you, Linda, obviously people would like to communicate with her. What is the best way to do so?
Well, probably through Twitter.
Okay, what is her handle?
You know what, Paul? I don't know because, see, I don't have a cell phone.
Okay, I'll tell you what. We have it here. We'll put it up on the board and make mention of it during the break and let people at least say hello to her that way.
Yes, and there have been people that's been contacting her, through her Twitter account.
Okay, Linda, we'll do that in a moment. We'll pay tribute to Debbie that way. Thanks for the call.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Coach Gary Pinkel, as spring beginning to wind down in Columbia. Coach, thank you very much. I hope you weren't paying attention here. We all picked the SEC East, and naturally I went against you again, so I'm sure I'll be wrong, but welcome to the program.
I'm glad to be with you guys.
By now, I guess you're almost to the point where you don't want anyone to pick you, do you?
Honestly, I don't pay much attention to it. My coaches and players, we just kind of do what we do. I think you maybe draw a little inspiration, from maybe lack of respect a little bit, but we don't really play that card. We focus on ourselves, And I think we have a chance to be a good football team, and we'll see. It's a great league, and looking forward to competing.
No doubt. And I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't want too much attention. It's amazing that you're not really under the radar screen. People in college football are well aware of your success and the program, but it just seems that way when you chat about it all the time. Certainly some changes in your program, particularly on the defensive side as you get ready. Football is all about changes, but talk a little bit about dealing with new coaches and I doubt a new approach, but certainly new personnel.
Yeah, well, Barry Odom we got from Memphis. Barry used to be on my staff. He'd been here for quite a few years. Did a phenomenal job in Memphis, had a lot of opportunities to go to a lot of different places. Came back to Mizzou. The transition is going to be very, very easy for him just because we do things certain ways, and he does it the right way. And so I think we make some changes a little bit. We're doing a lot of the same things we did before, but there'll be a few changes. The staff, the existing staff, embrace him and obviously know him very, very well. And so we also have a change in our secondary coach, our safety coach. And Ryan Waters, and he's also from Memphis. So a little bit different for him because he's never been a part of how we have ways we do everything. We have ways we teach. We have ways we discipline our players. We have ways we coach. There's certain specific exact ways we do things. So a little bit more of adjustment for him, but he's doing a great job. And both the coaches that we lost were professional advancement. One to be a head coach, one to be a defensive coordinator, Dave Steckel and Alex Grinch. So that's the change is good, and really, we just continue to do what we do and try to get better, though. Obviously, we're trying to improve as a football team.
Coach, everyone approaches spring differently, and some spring games don't seem like much is being gained. What do you look forward to and try to get out of the spring game?
Well, first of all, I want our fans to have a great time here, and really have a great experience here. And so we're working to do that. And our fans, have had to grow and be in the SEC just like our football team has, and being in this great league. But I think one thing is for the redshirt freshmen who didn't play last year at all. A lot of those guys are going to play this year. They're going to be in their first game for since they were in high school 2 years ago. So the experience of preparing like a normal game, but yet learning from it when it's over. So when we get into our opening game, that this experience kind of helped them in their preparation and hopefully play better in that first game. And then there's a lot of other things that we're still looking at personnel. We make our evaluation based on all 15 practices and including the scrimmages, obviously. And so I think a combination of all those things we're looking for, and certainly want to have stay healthy. And I think that's for all of us, that's something that's very, very important.
It sounds like you've got things in good shape for the spring. Some coaches have talked about other ideas. There's been a lot of ideas floated around in the media about actually having real games. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I think the injury factor is one. Certainly we all have another class we have to come in our freshman class, numbers-wise. They don't come in till June for summer school in August. So I think that, for us, what we've done is we just have our version of our spring game. We play most of our starters the first half. We have pull guys, certain guys out in the third and the fourth quarter. And so we kind of have a system in place. It's probably not a perfect system. We spot the number twos. It's like ones against twos the first half, and I think we go 12-minute quarters. So we just try to make it work for us and get the numbers of plays. For every guy on that field has a certain number of plays we want to get him based on many things. We make that decision tomorrow in a staff meeting.
And obviously we'll all be paying attention to the quarterback position and Matty Mock. I doubt he'll play any more than the next person, but not that you need to see much more from him. What are you expecting as the season gets closer?
Well, our passing game is because we have some really young receivers, and we have three starters out right now on offense. So our passing game has been inconsistent. Maybe our offense has been. We're not in sync yet, and so we just need to. We got good young receivers. They're very talented. We just got to become an offensive football team that can execute and put guys in position to make plays, and that's kind of what we're looking for, and that's something that's going it's going to be ongoing. But by the time we open up in September, young guys, we will never talk about it again. We got until then to get ourselves ready to play, and hopefully get some guys in the field who can make some plays, because as you well know in this league, you got to have playmakers, and with playmakers you certainly got a chance.
Coach, college football is an evolving sport. You're really no longer newcomers to the SEC, but the SEC has been the dominant conference for many, many years. Last year, obviously, Ohio State won, and the league took some hits nationally. You play in this league. You know this league. Your thoughts on the perception of SEC football right now outside of the SEC and in the national conversation?
Well, I don't think there's any question about it. The league is so well respected. I think, last year when it didn't finish quite like, we all wanted it to in our league, I think, people are going to try to take their shots because they get very few of them. But no question about it. I mean, you look at, and I've been in the Pac-10 and Big 12, and I've been associated with those leagues, and they're great football, great college football, Big 10, and everything else. But there's no question about it. This league is the best. I mean, this has helped us so much in recruiting, the national respect that the SEC has. And quite frankly, I talk to our players about non-conference games, and when I talk about non-conference games, I tell our players, this is about the SEC also, guys. This is about the respect that we have and the responsibility that we have to uphold, not for just Mizzou, but for the SEC, and the same thing in our bowl game. Before our bowl game last year, the Citrus Bowl, we talked about that. We're representing the SEC. We're representing all those teams. So, this is bigger than just a football league. I think we all have great pride in it, and certainly there's a great responsibility that goes with that.
Certainly everyone is upgrading when it comes to scheduling. I mean, that's almost a necessity in this new world. Your approach to that is what?
Well, I think, you always want to play a Power 5 team for sure. I think the scheduling is important to schedule the right way. Our league is so difficult. Our league is so tough. The rankings of the teams are certainly add to the strength of our schedule. So our schedule can be much tougher than maybe another school in another league just because of the league itself. So I think you have to take those things into consideration. At the end of the day, it's also about staying healthy. So, I think there's a lot of components to look at, but I think you have to be really smart to schedule the right way. And I think there's a consistency of scheduling in our league. I think most people can see it, and I think most people are doing it around the country.
Most people try to play the big games up front, but in looking at your schedule, you have one in mid-November against BYU. I believe that game is in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how you arrived at that date.
Well, first of all, for us, it was really, it was a need. We needed a spot there, and this is a transition that we made into this league. We've had to play some games that maybe we wouldn't play. We normally would not play BYU in November. We wouldn't do it. But from a scheduling standpoint, there were very few teams left in the country. So this is something that in a well-thought-out plan, like you said, you're not going to put yourself in that position. Unfortunately, we've had to. It's going to be a great place to play. Certainly, we're playing a very, very good team, but that's not consistent with what I call intelligent scheduling.
Appreciate your honesty on that. And again, some people do. It's easy to forget that schedules we were talking about earlier are done 5, 10, 12 years in advance. I mean, Missouri is not in the league that long, so there's still some of that digestion. As you go forward and look far ahead, your schedule. I mean, we've seen some of the games, but what else are you thinking about as we move ahead?
Well, again, our goal is to play a Power 5 team every year, and preferably playing in September, and then challenging, but yet smart. And I think. The 1AA teams, I think most everyone in our league plays at least one. It's good for them financially, and it's good for us. And by the way, there's some great ones out there. And the other thing is it's hard to win. I don't care who you play, it's hard to win. And scheduling is something that, hopefully we can, in the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, kind of make sure that we put ourselves in the right situation from a scheduling standpoint. But, consistent with really, as you look at most schedules in our league, that's pretty much how we do our non-conference schedule also.
Coach Gary Pinkel of the University of Missouri, we'll see him soon, of course, as believe it or not, Coach, we're with spring game out of the way after this weekend. We're on to the college football season. And
crazy.
Can't wait to get to Birmingham for the SEC predictions and watch Missouri get snubbed again and have you prove everyone wrong.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll show up. We'll battle.
No doubt. You've shown that over the last couple of years quite well. Thank you, Coach. Always good to talk to you.
Appreciate
that. Coach Gary Pinkel joining us from Columbia right after I once again predicted Missouri wouldn't win the SEC. Yes.
This is is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Matthew is up next. Hey, Matthew.
Paul, how you doing today, sir?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. It's been a long time since I had the chance to get in and talk with you, man. I want to talk about Aaron Hernandez, man. 25, I believe it said 25 years old today, and it just done kind of really screwed his life all up with his bad choices and bad decisions. And Paul, you know, that's what I do every day, man. That's what I do. Paul, the reason I called today, I need your help because I know you got a gazillion listeners out there, okay? And I try every day, and you know I do, Paul, trying to prevent our young people to keep them from becoming the next Aaron Hernandez. And I want to know if you will let me, for just a second, give your listeners my website so they can check it out and help me.
Matthew, if you think you can help save some young person out there, it's all yours.
Yes, sir. My website is MatthewCreighton.com. That's MatthewCreighton.com. And when all the listeners that just heard that, when you go to that website, you're going to see how, you know, one thing Big Swagoo said, Paul, that just hit the nail on the head. It takes 15 to 20 years to build up something great, and it takes about 30 seconds. I believe Marcus said about 30 seconds to screw it all up. And there's no doubt in my mind that whenever this dude gets to his cell tonight and he's sitting there, he's probably already thought about it. I don't know if he have enough.
Well, I mean, don't forget, he's been in jail for 2 years, so it's not like he's been out taking Alaskan cruises.
Right. But, man, can you believe, Paul, 25 years old, and not only, just like Marcus said, not only have he taken someone's life, but he screwed his own life up. I think he's got a 2 or 3 year old kid. Mm-hmm. But, man, our young people have got to learn, man, choices and decisions. And
well, let me ask you, Matthew, for those who don't have ready Internet access, if you had to chisel down your message to young people, what is it? What would you tell them?
I would tell them to stop and think about their choices and decisions. Just stop and think about it because, Paul, sometimes you just, they don't realize it. I'm pretty sure when Aaron Hernandez stopped and looked back now, he probably thought he could get away with it. He probably thought it was just a game, some kind of joke. And now this guy done screwed his life up and taken somebody else's life. And that's what I try to get across to him. Back in August when Coach Saban let me talk to the team, Tyron Jones was sitting in that audience, and I tried to explain to them guys, you can screw your life up, and look what happened to Tyron. Some of them, they just don't believe it, man. They absolutely don't believe that you can turn your life upside down and like Marcus said, in 30 seconds and screw it up. So everybody that's listening out there, go to MatthewCreighton.com and check it out. And if you got some suggestions, let me know. And, Paul, I appreciate you giving me a chance to do that, okay?
Matthew, it was our pleasure. Thank you, and best wishes to you. And I will say this: I haven't gone to Matthew's website yet, but this wasn't an isolated incident, and I think sometimes people make a mistake in the heat of the moment. They don't mean to. They just do it, and their life gets thrown away. I don't think that's the case in Aaron Hernandez. Don't forget, he still faces a double murder. This guy has shown criminal behavior across at every step of the way. So, I'm not discouraging anyone from trying to get help or think about it, but this is a little bit different in Aaron Hernandez's case.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Rich is in Atlanta. Hey, Rich.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
Hey, Paul, great interview with Coach Pinkel. I just wanted to ask you, I've always thought this. Could you shed some light on the relationship between Gary Pinkel and Nick Saban, being that they both played at the same small school in the MAC, both played under Don James, but they don't seem like they were in each other's wedding, if you know what I'm saying?
You said
Do you know anything about their relationship?
I have always heard, and I've interviewed Saban about Pinkel before, and Pinkel about Saban. I've always sensed that they're pretty close. I mean, there was a little bit of a rivalry. Jokingly, I heard once about who was Don James's favorite, for whatever that matters. But I know they were both very close to him. I think Pinkel maybe a little bit closer. But I've always thought they were reasonably good friends. Now, don't know any more than that. I mean, you obviously do you have a sense of something else?
Yeah, the opposite, actually.
Okay.
And I don't know.
Okay.
That's why I was kind of hoping that maybe you knew that there was
I
a
don't.
backstory.
No, there's no doubt. If there is something between them, I don't know that.
Okay. That's
Well,
cool.
by the way, where did you
get?
get that sense, Rich?
Well, again, they both of their roots. It's just not like say Miles and Ken Cameron. I mean, the whole connecting the dots. You know, they just don't seem like the friends that you would think they were. But again, I could be wrong. That's why I was asking you.
Well, I mean, listen, think back. I mean, they were in school together in the late 60s. We all know how long ago, late 60s, early 70s. Think back to your own. I'm still friends with a couple of people I went to school with, but not everyone. But then again, I'm also not competing with those guys either. We're friends. We're not opposing coaches. But I don't know any more than that. And if I did, you know me, Rich, I would tell you right out.
Yeah, right. That's why I asked. Pinkel's 3-4 years older than him.
I'll have to double check, but I mean, Saban is
62,
either 62 or 63. I think he's 63. Pinkel's 62, so Saban may be slightly older than Pinkel.
Oh, really? So I had that wrong too.
No,
I'm 0 for 2, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, you may not be 0 for 2. You're just slightly off on the age. As far as the other one, I'll do some digging. I'm actually reading a biography of Saban right now that has not come out yet. I'll tell you more about it when I finish, but I'll see if there's anything in there. I know that there is a chapter about them being together the day of Kent State. And I've interviewed Saban and Pinkel about that. They were both in school together. Not in school together. They were in school together. I'm sorry.
They went to the cafeteria, allegedly.
Yeah.
Right? They went to eat.
Saban told me, I interviewed him a couple of years ago, he said he was eating a hamburger, of all things, when they heard the news. So he was very descriptive on that.
You know who his most famous teammate was, right? The Steeler Hall of Famer, Jack Lambert.
Absolutely. I remember he talked about that. But it was a pretty amazing group of people.
Real quick about Missouri, and I respect the job he's done, but one of the things about them, and it's been brought up occasionally, is when you look at, they've been very fortunate to win these divisions, being that the other teams kind of canceled each other out. Because when you look at Missouri, when they've been head up against the very top of the SEC, whether it be losing 34-0 at home to UGA, that Darrell will remind you again, and then, of course, the SEC championship game, I think that comes into play when people think about Missouri. What do you think of that?
I think it's fair. I mean, listen, it's cliche to say, hey, you got to pick Missouri, blah, 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 blah. But Missouri has done a lot of good things, but they have not done well in the championship game. I think that's pretty easy to understand. They've also blown some big moments, and I think that Georgia game was a big moment for them. They recovered from it. The other big moment, I think, was the South Carolina game, and I don't mean to be cruel. I mean, they won 11 games, but the South Carolina moment, losing I think a 2-touchdown lead at home, losing that game in overtime, cost them a shot at playing Auburn for the right to go to the national championship game.
Right. No, absolutely.
And I don't care what anyone says. Rich, one more thing, and I know that it's I heard what Pinkel said earlier, but I still have a hard time wrapping my arms around that Indiana loss.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. All right, buddy. Well, thanks. Hey, Paul, real quick, I got 2 tickets to Bob Dylan tonight, Montgomery, and I was wondering if you wanted me to swing by and pick you up.
Gary, I would love to, but I'm backstage.
Okay. Hey, I heard Iman's the drummer tonight. I hope so.
Rich, Iman is the drummer. In my senses, he may be better than the drummer Dylan has.
I think he is, too. All right, have a nice day. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, let me know if anyone else is going. First of all, think about this. Why is Bob Dylan playing Montgomery, Alabama? I don't get that. I mean, Dylan, by the way, I've never seen Bob Dylan, although I was a fan in the day, and I still listen to him when I'm really sick for the 60s.
Thank you for listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. Tune into the Paul Finebaum Show every day from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network or on the ESPN Radio app.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Major League Baseball on ESPN Radio. Last season, the Pirates reached the postseason for the second consecutive season, only to be sent home early after losing the wild card. Will they return for the 3rd straight year? This weekend, they face the Cubs, who have plans to make their first postseason berth since 2008. The Cubs and Pirates. The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. 2 of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals. The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.